How many times have you sat with someone asking for advice, hoping that something amazing will come out and some amazing nugget of wisdom will be dropped onto your lap, only to find out that they just say, be yourself. You just have to be yourself. Well, what the heck does that mean? There's so many times when someone's looking for advice, when they're looking for guidance, counsel, some sort of inspiration to help them out of a tough time, and all they get back is just be yourself. Well, I think the piece of advice is great, and I think it applies to so many situations. It's actually also kind of hard to do for a lot of people. So, in some cases, it can actually be bad or unhelpful advice or incomplete advice, rather. So, for the people that it's helpful for, that's great. For the people that it's not super helpful for or just bad for, what does that mean, or why would that even happen? Well, I think it's because people don't know who they are sometimes, or even if they do know who they are, they may not know how to actually be themselves and what drives that. And I think that's the key part here is who are you and what's really driving that? Because once you understand that, then you understand who you are as a person and how to just be yourself. It's so much easier to be yourself once you better understand yourself. And once you understand that, you can navigate so many complex situations in the world. Hard relationships, complex dynamics at work, negotiating salaries, understanding your worth and your value for your services. There's so many situations where having all this psychological clarity and understanding will help you master yourself, your emotions, your perspective, and your relationship with others. So, to help with this, I have a set of really practical questions. There's about 20 of them to really help you refine and understand who you are as a person. So, starting with number one, we have what makes you happiest in life and why. Think of this as these key motivators, these inspiring things in your life that really just light you up, things that give you energy and soul. For number two, what do people thank you for? What are you doing that is valuable to other people? Things that are seen as helpful or supportive. Do people come to you and thank you often for a specific thing? Really think about that. Number three, what are you super talented at? Do you have any unfair advantages or some sort of gift or ability? Maybe it's mathematical prowess. Maybe you're super artistic and creative. You can just see things so far in advance, and there's colors and lights and things that you can just form in your head. Whatever the thing may be, having a clear understanding of that can really help you dial in and understand where you come from, where your strengths lie, and what you're passionate about. Number four, what type of people do you look up to and respect? What are these people like? What are their values? How do they talk? How do they carry themselves? And what do they look like? What do they dress like? All these characteristics, like what is it about those specific people that you find so interesting? Number five, what drains your energy and takes life away from you? Just as important as it is to understand what you love and appreciate and what gives you life, it's also important to understand what takes it away and what rips that out of your soul. Super, super helpful. Number six, when's the last time you were in a flow state where you were completely at a loss of what time was? It wasn't even a concept for you. You just totally lost track of time. You get lost in the moment. You're fully invested in the task at hand. What were you doing? How did that thing happen? Is that something that happens often in your life? Number seven, what would you do if you won $500 million? Be super specific on this one. Cool, maybe it's, okay, I want to buy a house and a car, but like, What kind of house? Where? What would it be like? What would be inside that house? What types of people would you have at that house? Maybe you want a certain kind of car. Maybe you want to take a trip, or maybe you would donate it, give a huge chunk of it away, or maybe you'd invest it or start a business. Well, what kind of business, and how would it be run, and what would it function like? Think of all those little details and get really, really specific. Number 8, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? What endeavor would you pursue? What thing would you try to succeed in if you for sure knew that failure wasn't going to happen and come out on the other side? Number 9, what do you find yourself regularly thinking about or discussing with others? This is a great indicator of those passions coming out, that authentic side of you, the realness inside that's pouring out of your head day in and day out. Is there something that you're always thinking about? Is there something that you're always wondering about or pondering? Man, I wonder what this would be like if blank, or, oh, I want to learn more about that thing, or I want to search this on the internet when I get home because I'm so curious about it. I just can't stop thinking about it. Think of what that thing or things are. It's super important. Number 10, what's one of your favorite memories and why? This is an interesting one because looking back on your memories, most of the most potent memories that you have are emotional in nature. The strongest feelings, the strongest memories we have very powerful feelings and emotions behind them. There's so much going on in those neural connections that it could be very telling about who you are as a person to look back on some of the most emotional memories of your life. Number 11, what was your worst day ever and why? What about that day made it so unbelievably terrible for you? What about that day was so earth-shattering and traumatic? Is it something you've actually worked through? Is it something you think about often? It's a pretty challenging one. Number 12, what angers you about the world? Maybe it's a certain policy. Maybe it's a certain thing from the government, or just anything. It could be a social thing. It could be a business thing, a personal thing. Maybe it's a huge topic that affects everybody. Maybe it's something super small that just bugs you that you think about a lot. It doesn't have to be so grand and inspirational or so tiny and silly to some people. Just anything that comes to mind. It could be a list of things. Write it out and get really specific. Try to understand what about that thing or those things is so frustrating to you. What anger does that bring out of you? Why? Really, really think on that and take your time. Number 13, what scares you? And 14, what makes you sad? I think this is a good way to understand the way you feel emotions and the way you see things. Is there a theme in the things that scare you, that anger you, that make you sad? Where does this come from? If you think back to your childhood or other formative years of your life, is there anything that's tying these together? Is there this needle that's threading it all into one piece? It could be very revealing to your psychology. Number 15, how do you define success? Is it money? Is it fame? Is it subscribers, likes, attraction? Is it a certain age bracket? Is it achieving happiness or a family? The answer is up to you. You're the one who creates the right answer for you, by you. You don't have to prescribe to society's definition of success. It could be anything. What you really truly define as success could be very telling on who you are, what you stand for, and it could help you look at the dissonance in your life to see if there is a certain level of frustration that's constantly coming up. Maybe you're not reaching that, or maybe you're living a life that's very different from what you see as success. It could be very telling. Number 16, what's a major weakness you want to work on within yourself? This could be anything. Maybe it's a certain trait that you developed, a bad habit, laziness, unmotivated for whatever reasons. It could be anything at all, big or small. Just think of something that you want to work on, something that's been kind of a pain point for you in your life. Number 17, if you had access to the best teachers and resources / coaches in the world for any topic at all, what topic would you choose and why? Be super specific here. This is an interesting one because it helps tap into your intellectual interests. Is there something that you really want to learn more about? Something that you're always asking questions about? Or you tell people, oh, in a past life, I would have been this, or a different life, I would have been that. It could be anything. Maybe you're really fascinated by architecture or galaxies or guitar, programming, anything, literally anything. Really, really take time and flesh that out and understand what that looks like. 18, what would you gladly do for free? There are some things that we're so passionate about that we would happily offer up for free. In this case, I do a lot of fun side projects for friends for free because I love doing coaching. I love the psychology aspect of it. So for certain people, it's no sweat at all. It's no problem. For years, in the very, very beginning of my career, I did free consulting because nobody would hire me. That was a big issue, but I had no experience, but I loved it so much that I was willing to literally work for free for years while I was going to school, while I was interning, doing all these other things to just build experience and do the thing I thought was so much fun. It really made a huge difference for me. And it really helped me understand, what do I love about my field and why am I in it in the first place? It brings forth so many other questions for you to ponder. Number 19, what do you want others to remember you for? After you've passed and you're long gone, maybe you have a family, maybe you don't. Maybe you have friends and family who's long living way after you and they're sharing your story. They're talking about you, sharing photos, or maybe you have content online like a YouTube channel or something like that. What do you want people to look back on and think? What do you want them to say about you? And what do you want them to feel when they feel those same emotions that you made them feel over time? What is it about you that you want to be remembered, that you want people to feel empowered by? And number 20, what did you do a lot as a kid that made you happy? As children, we are so naive and young. There's just so much in life we haven't experienced yet. We're still in these crucial formative years to really understand, who are we as people? What are our core values? And what are our beliefs and perspectives about the world? How do we behave and what habits do we form? There's so much development in our psychology in these periods of our lives. So when you're a kid, this is well before the phase where a lot of your imagination gets beat out of you from corporate America or some crazy job overseas where you're working endlessly and there's no room for creativity or imagination or silliness. You can't be a kid. You have to grow up. You have to buck up and pay your bills and put food on the table and provide or clean or do this or that, whatever. We're forced as adults to get away from that sometimes. And I think far too many people lose sight of that as they get older. So anything you can do to hold on to that as you age is such a miracle. It's such a powerful force that you can use to keep that sense of imagination and creativity alive within you. It's a fire that's lit that says so much about you. So many things in my life are derived from my interests as a kid. This shirt that I'm wearing, the guitar in my room, the skateboards in my trunk, the video games I play, the psychology topics that I'm fascinated by, the camera equipment here in the YouTube channel. There's so many things that are deeply rooted into my psychology from way back from when I was a kid the same stuff that I was doing then, just different versions of it. And I've kept it around for so long. I've kept that flame lit on those candles. And now they're burning brighter than ever because they're things that I'm so passionate about. And I think a lot of people lose sight of that, as I mentioned, and it crushes their sense of imagination. So the more you understand that, the more you can get back to that inner child, that spirit that you want to keep alive within you. It's so much fun, and it really does make a massive difference in your mental health. So all of this to say, if you've gone through all of these questions and you've answered them in great detail, it's really, really hard. It takes a lot of time. And sometimes you may have to ask people, you may have to go to loved ones, or you may have to sit with it for maybe a few hours, days, weeks, whatever. But fill it out, put it on paper, put it in a document somewhere, somehow, get all 20 of them answered. It'll really help you understand who you are as a person and what you see in the world, because everybody sees it differently. Just because I'm here doing it this way for me and this is what I like to do, that doesn't mean it has to be that way for you. Just because I think something is right or wrong or good or bad or funny or not funny or whatever. It's my perspective, my opinions. There's so many nuances to this, and it can be really hard to just be yourself. So it's a really tricky piece of advice, but if you really want to dial it in and help yourself understand, who am I? What do I stand for? And what can I do to really maximize my psychological health? Because again, this goes full circle. The more you understand about you, the better you understand yourself, which allows you to navigate so many complex situations in the world, which will only make your life better and the lives of all of those around you so much better. I hope this helped you. I hope this was a practical, easy to follow set of exercises and questions. Take your time and treat yourself with grace. As always, I appreciate you guys hanging out with me, and always remember to take care of yourself, take care of those around you, and I'll see you in the next episode.